You guys have been asking for a renovation video or a series of them, and we have one for you. I have to say that it's really important for somebody who does what I do for a living to be able to turn it off. And I am totally able to do that. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I do not think about the performance of this house. This is my in-laws' house, and they have lived here since Grace was 1 year old. So when I step into this house, I don't think about air and air quality and insulation and air sealing and HVAC and all that stuff. And I have not for the 22 years that we've been together. And today it has suddenly become my responsibility to know what is going on in here. So we are going to find out. So I've got the blower door set up. Most important test you can run on any home. We're gonna find out how leaky the house is so that we have a baseline for being able to do things like HVAC planning and finding out where the comfort issues are. We're gonna look at the fireplaces, which there are multiples of, and find out if the damper is closed or if the damper is even there. We're going to take measurements, knowing how to use a laser measuring tool and make a map of the house. And what I'm gonna do with this is put it into a 3D model. I use SketchUp and be able to get a solid volume for the house and also be able to find out square footages so that you can do things like takeoffs for insulation amounts and air sealing and all that stuff. So the kind of work that we're talking about, yes, we're gonna use infrared cameras and stuff like that, and it's very exciting, but also there's a lot of boring stuff, like just making a drawing and walking around and looking at things, going into the basement and finding out where this door and that door goes. So also the HVAC in this house never has obviously been high performance. My in-laws, the reason that I don't care, haven't until now, is because my in-laws don't care. So it's not my house, it's not my deal. What we're about to do is retrofit this house. They're doing a big construction project to make it aging in place accessible. So Grace is having our friends Chris and Jody Lomergiddens from LG Squared Architects blow out the back side of the house, add an elevator, add a ground level access so that we can get people in if they're in wheelchairs or walkers or anything like that. And all that stuff is like, well, we have the opportunity. Let's go ahead and we're gonna need to add HVAC for that anyway. Let's go ahead and reconfigure the HVAC system that's already here. And then we can make the whole house better instead of just one area of the house. Let's go inside. It's a warm day outside. It's about 76, 78. Inside, we got 74 degree air, but the relative humidity is 65%. And by the way, one of the cool things about using an infrared camera is you can start to investigate what is actually called mean radiant temperature. Just because the air conditioner says your air is 74 degrees, which it actually is, doesn't mean that you're going to be comfortable, because the temperature of the solid stuff in your house has a lot to do with how humans experience comfort. So the ceiling is actually 78 degrees, almost 77.6, and you can see that the air conditioning is running because we've got this cool area around the duct there. So we can already tell without doing any other diagnostics that we've got some insulation issues because the air temperature and the surface temperature is different. Even on a mild day, this isn't what you'd call a hot day. This right behind me is the HVAC closet on the top floor. You can hear it at work. You want to always take a look at things. We've got a grill and a grill. And what we see when we open it up is this is a very common setup in not very well designed homes. We have this, which is your return duct. This area of the floor. You can see like dust and maybe some dead bugs, and also a can of paint, things like that are like, this is all your return air is coming through here. So all of that is getting distributed throughout the house now. That's what this grill is for. This grill up here, you can see we've got a DIY, and this is where like the older homes, you got layers and layers of people doing things and then undoing them. This has been undone with a Ritz crackers box taped in place because that vent leads to the attic.
So that's sunlight.
That's sunlight, yeah, that's the attic. That's the vented attic. This is rust right down there. You can see that that's like a sign of condensation. And so we wanna, this is something that we wanna look at. There's rust here as well. We can see here, we've got mold growth on the back of this door. And that says hot, humid air coming in contact with cool surfaces. So we obviously have air conditioning out here, no air conditioning in here, supposedly. There's obviously air coming through here, and some of this mold that's growing on the backside of this door, which would be totally expected because this door is going to be cold, it's going to be the same temperature as the house is going to have kind of, like higher humidity. And by the way, remember we talked about water films in last couple of sessions on the CIE project. And water films are not even condensation. That's not even like having it be wet. It's just like got some water present on the surface. Some of this is going to be creating air byproducts that are definitely finding their way then into the house, because we are on the most depressurized level of the house. This is where the house breathes in, on this level all summer long. And you can see it clearly. Again, mild day, not a big deal. We don't have that much of a delta T temperature between inside and outside. And even so, we are getting a slight depressurization on the top floor. This would flip if we were in the basement. It'll look the opposite. Air sealing. And the attic. Obviously the ductwork. Good thing that it's insulated at the runouts, but the trunk is totally uninsulated, and that is roughly 60 degrees. The cold parts, that's what we kind of expect. There's the closet you can see down into that the equipment is sitting in. We have also knob and tube wiring, which actually is still, looks like it's still alive. You can see some of it spliced together right there with newer stuff. So that would need to be taken care of before we can insulate any of this stuff. That might be also why there's less insulation than we would want in here, because they had to run the tubes through the wood. That is so that we don't start a fire, because that wiring gets really hot when it runs electricity through it. So, golly. We're in the basement where you can see light around the door frame right here. And we've got 70% relative humidity building up in the basement here. This should be the coolest and driest place in the house if the air conditioning is doing its job and sinking through the house and making this the most comfortable place. Many people, if you step into crawl spaces, the vented crawl space will be the most cool and dry room in the house. Which is totally insane. So this is probably part of a moisture issue that might be adding moisture to the house. We have what I think is a dirt floor with wood right over the dirt. You can smell, I mean, we're in a crawl space now. We've got a dehumidifier that looks dead. We have waterproofing on the wall. That tells us something about the past. Got lots of spider webs down here, so that tells us also something. And there's our wet dirt. Yeah, you can smell it. So apparently, when Grace was a kid, this room had a hot tub in it, a jacuzzi tub, like right here, I guess, on the high ground. That's nice. But yeah, like, so there's a sump. Oh, there's an open sump pit right there. And we got a pile of wet dirt against the wall over there. Got our water heater. And we always like to look at the top. And if you see this, the plastic ring is melted. That means that hot, moist gases have been coming out of this thing, getting all over this and corroding it, in addition to melting that plastic right there. That's a sign of spillage. So this is probably a depressurization issue. I don't know what this is doing living up there. Ditto on that one. So this thing definitely is spilling. Also, we got corrosion, which says that water is hanging out, and actually looks like it actually goes down. So this whole thing should go up from here. And then, I'm stepping on. Yeah, that pitch right there is pretty much exactly level. That should go up, because the only thing that's making these combustion gases happening inside of this machine going outside is going up, 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 up. They're buoyancy. And so this is not buoyant, and there's definitely some of this coming into the house. There's a little plumbing air vent on that thing right there. This is very, very interesting. You guys can see why I never stuck my big fat nose into any of this stuff. My big fat face. Fireplace. Now this one has glass doors that are not very well kept. You can see how dusty they are. And by the way, dust is a sign that airflow is happening. So this is basically becoming a filter for air movement So we know that air is probably flowing through here, so I always like to ask, yummy. I always like to ask, is the damper closed? Everyone always says, of course it's closed. Why would it not be closed? Not only is this one not closed, it does not exist. That is the sky that we're looking at. Even if there's a cap up there, it's an air tightness issue. And so we're again gonna have to seal this one up just like we did the one downstairs that was just an open hearth fireplace.
Okay. We're gonna do a blower door test. Should grown men be afraid of blower doors?
Yeah, man, should grown men be afraid of blower doors?
No.
Blower door is not set up on the front door because we're planning on being here for a little while. And I always like to have the blower door set up the whole time so that I can do any little tiny diagnostics I want to do. Right now, I'm able to monitor the pressure inside the house with reference outside and just periodically check in. Even while I'm walking around the outside, I can use Bluetooth connectivity and I can see what the pressure in the house is at different points during my walk. That's a weird, obscure example, but also, I don't want to block the front door because I don't want people to be pissed off at me. So we need people coming and going. Chris and Jody are doing architecture things for takeoffs. We've got contractors coming and going to look at things and plan. Front door is important. What you want is a door that is centrally accessible, that's like opens up to a big space, not a little tiny hallway, and that is not in a space that you would want to close off. Like using the garage door and opening the garage is kind of defeats the purpose because you want to know what the garage is doing. And if you put the blower door there, you won't be able to tell. Round number. Let's go see how it breaks down with the zonal pressure testing. Okay, so this basement has that vented crawl space totally connected to it. If that said 9, then the basement would be completely outside. It says 5.2, which means it's more outside than inside. But it's still kind of in the middle, so it's very confused. We need to help this space if we possibly can. Okay. So the basement door was closed when we started this test, so 20,000 was with the basement door closed. 21,500. So now we're not grading at 9 pascals outside pressure, we're grading at 7. So this is going to end up being something like the basement pressure, 4.8 out of 7. And so we're going to want to know where those leaks are specifically from the attic into the house, because that attic is vented and it's supposed to be completely outside. That number should be 7. So the fact that it's not means that there's a lot of leakage to the house. Grace's childhood room. Okay, and again, that's actually even more outside than the attic is. Do you understand what my mind is trying to, like, and like, you know, we're testing all this stuff. I don't know why we're testing this. I'm not sure what we're gonna actually fix here, but well, let's do one more thing.
The sleeping porch edition?
Yeah. So 6 out of 7 means 6/7 outside, 1/7 inside. So this space is more disconnected from the house than connected to the house when we close it off. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's like an outside space, it just means that it has almost no relationship that it wants to have with the house once you close this door. All right. So all of the extra air leakage testing that we just did with the zonal pressure testing, any pressure panning that I would have done on things like the, wall cavities or on ceiling light fixtures or ducts, that's all nice. The thing that I'm definitely going to be able to use from this is the CFM50, because that can be put into a load calc software, and I can figure out how much heating and cooling this house needs based on a whole bunch of assumptions that I'm going to make about the amount of insulation in the walls, which is probably nothing, the amount of insulation in the roof or in the attic floor, which I'm going to measure and then use what I know about cellulose insulation to grade that. And then with the air tightness, which is super important. So if I just said this house was average, that would be very, very wrong. This house is the leakiest house that we've ever measured. And I keep doing videos like this. Where it's like, it's a new record.
You've had a 22-year relationship with this house and you're just now testing it. Amazing.
You see my problem.
You didn't want to know.
I didn't want to know. I mean, and like my in-laws didn't want to know.
Ignorance
my family
is
doesn't want to know.
bliss. Yeah.
They don't have a problem with it, and that's okay. My book, Home Performance Diagnostics, has like over 40 test methods in it. And you would never want to run all of those on a house. In fact, I'm just gonna say, like, you wanna know what you wanna know, and don't know more than you need to know. And you're not gonna tell your clients more than they need to know either. So what am I supposed to do with this information now? Nothing on this channel is gonna make anybody happier. It will make you more informed, but it actually might do the opposite sometimes as far as happiness goes.
Can you put that under Nana's pillow? Ooh, where's Nana's pillow?
Another thing about old houses is lead. So this is a new kit. I'm gonna be putting an interview with this guy whose name is Eric on our channel. This is detectled.com. So this is basically a very simple kit that comes with a spray bottle and a little UV light. So the flashlight is what's gonna show us if there's a chemical reaction going on. So essentially, all we have to do is find an area that we think might have lead in it. And I'm mostly interested, and we're gonna talk with him about other stuff outside of homes, but in things that people touch. So like, let's look at this very, very old, we're gonna get this on. We're gonna look at whether there's any fluorescing happening that's like natural. So you can see that some of this dust is showing up kind of like bright purple. I don't know if you can see that. So then we spray, and if any of it turns this green color that you can see on this actual flashlight here, then we're worried. And we're not, it doesn't look like we're worried about this.
Mostly purple.
So that's good. Definitely look over here. This is where our children sleep. So this is the door jamb. And we can see that here on the door, we've got a fair amount of like breakage going on. So we can see a little bit of fluorescing there, but when we spray, it really starts glowing. Can you see how that's really taken off? So anywhere here where we've got the green showing up, and especially up at the top here, that's pretty amazing. And so that's layers and layers of old lead-based paint, and that's based on rubbing. So let's look over here now. Yikes.
Hold on, I'm trying to get it to focus on it. Yeah.
Now, just to clarify, our children are not going to be touching that. But the fact that the door keeps on closing and opening means that that stuff is being worn down to it, and then it's being worn away. And what that ends up is looking like over here. We're looking for the dust that would be released when that gets worn might show up different places. So for example, right here, where we would need to clean. So this is all dust.
And you don't really think to vacuum the edges of your window.
Right, like we're not really, but then also there's like a little bit of worn down paint here too. And so this is a place where children would touch. And then of course, because they're little animals, they're gonna put their hands in their mouth after that. This is one reason why going to Venice, Italy is so handy for people who think too much about building science. It taught me that not everybody cares about building science, and that's okay. We don't have to save everybody. And so there are gonna be people who have houses that don't perform anything like what we would want them to if you start thinking about the system. And that's just the way it is. That's life. Like, it takes all kinds. So it's not your job to save your family and friends if they don't care about this stuff. And these people don't have kids, so we don't have to think about that. That's something that would make me feel guiltier if kids actually lived in here all the time.